What if the story of the Bible wasn't quite what we thought? The Black Hebrew Israelite movement challenges traditional interpretations of Scripture, raising profound questions about history, identity, and faith. Rooted in the idea that African Americans are descendants of the ancient Israelites, this movement calls for a re-examination of biblical narratives and their implications. Elon Musk, renowned for his disruptive innovations in electric vehicles, space exploration, and artificial intelligence, has unexpectedly turned his gaze toward this intriguing history. His apparent interest in the Black biblical Israelites has sparked surprise across social media, academic circles, and religious institutions. Could this 21st century pioneer unearth truths obscured for centuries? What motivates Musk, typically engrossed in humanity's future, to delve into ancient mysteries? More importantly, how might his exploration illuminate the intricate interplay of history, race, and identity, not just in America but across the globe? The concept of Black biblical Israelites, which posits that some ancient Israelites mentioned in the Bible were of African descent and that their lineage persists among us today, has been a topic of contention for a long time. Traditionally sidelined in both scholarly and religious discourse, this subject has now found a prominent and influential champion in Musk. His involvement in this controversial arena prompts us to reflect on the stories that mold our grasp of history and the underlying power structures that dictate which narratives are preserved and which are omitted. This essay will explore the historical backdrop of the Black Israelite movement, scrutinize Musk's motivations for engaging with such a contentious topic, and ponder the extensive ramifications of his purported discoveries. His exploration could potentially reshape our comprehension of the past and challenge the status quo, leading to a broader discussion on the interplay between history, race, and identity across the globe. The Black Israelite movement, alternatively termed the Hebrew Israelite movement, surfaced in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It arose as a response to the quest for identity, respect, and divine belonging among African Americans, following slavery and institutionalized discrimination. This era in American history was characterized by significant social, economic, and spiritual turmoil. Despite slavery's abolition, African Americans remained subject to widespread racial prejudice, economic subjugation, and the degrading effects of Jim Crow-era segregation. This period, often referred to as the nadir of American race relations, saw a systematic rollback of the gains made during Reconstruction. Disenfranchisement, through poll taxes, literacy tests, and other discriminatory measures, effectively stripped African Americans of their political power. Lynchings and other acts of racial violence were rampant, creating an atmosphere of fear and intimidation. This context of intense social and political oppression provided fertile ground for the emergence of movements seeking to redefine identity and offer hope for the future. Against this backdrop, the Black Israelite movement grew as a spiritual and social counter-narrative. Its central tenet was revolutionary and uplifting. African Americans were not just descendants of enslaved Africans, but were indeed the true heirs of the biblical Israelites. This biblical reinterpretation defied conventional views on race, religion, and identity. By redefining their historical and religious roots, African Americans could perceive themselves as a divinely chosen people, with an essential role in the divine scheme, rather than as marginalized outsiders within a predominantly white society. Influential figures like Bishop William Saunders, Crowdy, and Prophet F.S. Cherry significantly contributed to shaping and disseminating this transformative doctrine. Crowdy, a preacher with a past as a slave, established the Church of God and Saints of Christ in the 1890s. He merged Christian theology with Hebrew customs, and preached the idea that African Americans descended from the lost tribes of Israel, stressing the importance of moral conduct, communal solidarity, and adherence to select laws from Moses. In Philadelphia, F.S. founded a community that embraced the belief in African American Israelite heritage, dismissing mainstream Christianity as a corruption of the Bible's true message. This movement was revolutionary in multiple dimensions. Theologically, it reinterpreted the Bible to center African Americans as God's chosen people. Socially, it offered a powerful antidote to the dehumanizing narratives of white supremacy, asserting that African Americans were not merely victims of history, but inheritors of a sacred heritage. Politically, it fostered empowerment and collective identity, directly challenging the dominant structures of racial and religious oppression. As the Black Israelite movement evolved, it diversified into various factions and organizations, each with its own emphasis and interpretation of what it meant to be a Hebrew Israelite. Some groups, like the Church of God and Saints of Christ, focused on peaceful worship, community development, and adherence to a hybrid of Jewish and Christian traditions. Over time, the Black Israelite movement branched out into a spectrum of factions and organizations, each with distinct emphases and interpretations of Hebrew Israelite identity. Some, like the Church of God and Saints of Christ, concentrated on peaceful worship, community enhancement, and the integration of Jewish and Christian customs. Their focus was on moral reformation and spiritual revival as the means to social progress. This diversity within the movement is crucial to understanding its complexity. While some groups emphasized strict adherence to specific interpretations of biblical law, others focused on social activism and community building. This internal variation reflects the diverse experiences and needs of African Americans during this period, highlighting the movement's adaptability and resilience. Some groups also incorporated elements of Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism, linking their identity as Israelites to a broader struggle for racial liberation. Other factions, such as the Nation of Yahweh, founded by Yahweh Ben Yahweh, originally Hullen Mitchell Jr., blended Black nationalist ideology with religious doctrine. They promoted economic self-reliance, racial dignity, and occasionally employed controversial and confrontational methods. Despite their militant stance contrasting with more peaceful groups, they remained united in the belief that African Americans were the true Israelites. The movement's spectrum of beliefs mirrored the diverse experiences and ambitions of African Americans throughout the 20th century. Some pursued spiritual comfort and moral guidance, while others sought empowerment and active opposition to institutionalized injustice. Yet, they all shared the foundational belief that the ancient Israelites comprised not only the ancestors of modern Jews, but also Africans. Traditionally, mainstream historians, theologians, and archaeologists dismissed or overlooked the possibility that African Americans could trace their lineage to the ancient Israelites. Conventional biblical scholarship typically depicted the Israelites as a Middle Eastern Semitic people, with strong cultural and geographical ties to the ancient Near East. This viewpoint allowed for minimal African influence or identity within the Israelite narrative. Nevertheless, contemporary scholarship has started to question these presumptions, presenting a more intricate picture of the ancient Near East as a cultural and ethnic melting pot. Archaeological findings, historical documents, and biblical texts hint at a region that was far more interconnected than previously recognized. Societies such as Nubia and Egypt, along with others, demonstrate that the area was characterized by significant interplay and exchange. This shift in understanding has provided a more nuanced foundation for examining the complex identity of the Israelites, leaving space for African heritages and connections to be acknowledged and explored. The Black Israelite movement, therefore, offers a unique lens through which to view the interwoven fabric of history and faith. Canaan, Egypt, and Mesopotamia were not isolated entities, but were deeply interconnected through continuous trade, warfare, and cultural exchanges. One crucial argument for a more inclusive understanding of Israelite identity lies in the historical interplay between ancient Israel and Africa. Egypt, prominently featured in the biblical narrative, had a profound influence on the cultural and political landscape of the Israelites. The Exodus story exemplifies this deep connection between the two societies, underscoring the importance of Africa in the biblical narrative. Furthermore, the biblical text contains references that imply African influences within the Israelite culture. The prophet Zephaniah, described as a Cushite, suggests a link to Nubia or Ethiopia, challenging the notion of an ethnically homogeneous Israelite community. Similarly, the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon indicates the presence of African figures in biblical accounts, reinforcing the idea of a more diverse ancient world. Beyond scripture, archaeological evidence supports the notion of a culturally and ethnically varied ancient Israel. Artifacts and inscriptions reveal interactions with African cultures, such as Egyptian, influences visible in Israelite art, architecture, and religious customs. These connections suggest that the ancient Israelites were part of a larger tapestry of civilizations where African contributions were significant. The Black Israelite movement, therefore, offers a unique opportunity to reassess historical and religious narratives through a more holistic and inclusive lens, acknowledging the rich and complex web of interconnections that has shaped our understanding of the past. The question of ancient Israelite ethnicity remains a topic of scholarly debate. While traditional scholarship often emphasizes the Semitic origins of the Israelites, newer approaches recognize the complexity of identity in the ancient world. Ethnicity in antiquity was not a fixed or rigid concept, but was shaped by factors such as geography, language, religion, and political alliances. The biblical narrative itself reflects this fluidity. This fluidity of identity is exemplified by the numerous instances of intermarriage and cultural exchange between Israelites and other groups mentioned in the Bible. For example, the story of Ruth, a Moabite woman who became an ancestor of King David, highlights the integration of non-Israelites into the Israelite community. These examples challenge the notion of a purely homogeneous Israelite ethnicity and provide further context for understanding the claims of the Black Israelite movement. Figures like Moses, who was raised in Pharaoh's court, and Joseph, who became a high-ranking official in Egypt, illustrate the porous boundaries between Israel and its neighbors. The inclusion of non-Israelite figures, such as Ruth the Moabite and Rahab the Canaanite, in the lineage of King David further demonstrates the openness of Israelite identity for the Black Israelite movement. These complexities form a backdrop for the reinterpretation of the biblical narrative in a way that affirms African American identity, emphasizing the multicultural and interrelated nature of the ancient Near East. In fact, some proponents go as far as to claim that African Americans have a rightful claim to the heritage of the Israelites. This reinterpretation challenges Eurocentric readings of the Bible and opens up new possibilities for understanding the intersections of race, religion, and history. The historical and theological claims of the Black Israelite movement continue to resound in an era filled with continued racial injustice and identity struggles. The movement offers a vision of empowerment and spiritual renewal by reclaiming the narrative of the Israelites as a story inclusive of people of African descent. The movement provides an effective framework for resisting oppression and affirming the dignity of the marginalized. In making their claims, the movement touches on some fundamental questions relating to faith, history, and identity. How are religious belief and historical fact reconciled? What is the place of sacred texts in our understanding of the past? These questions are not peculiar to the Black Israelite movement, but form part of larger debates about religion and identity in a multicultural world. The Black Israelite movement represents a dynamic and multifaceted response to the challenges of race, identity, and faith in the modern world. Its roots in the 19th century reflect the resilience and creativity of African Americans seeking to reclaim their heritage and assert their dignity in the face of systemic oppression. By engaging in the historic and theological debates surrounding ancient Israel, the movement invites us to reconsider our presumptions of identity and move toward a more inclusive history and faith. Elon Musk's role in the Black Israelite debate. The involvement of Elon Musk into the discussion surrounding the Black Israelite narrative is rather unexpected and thought-provoking. But also widely known as a technological entrepreneur, Musk has built himself a reputation as a futurist disruptor of such industries as space exploration, electric cars, and even artificial intelligence. Musk had truly shown interest in shaping humanity's future through his ventures into business, particularly Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink. But this new salvo into historical and theological controversies marks a surprising turn for Musk's interests, and one has to wonder what could have attracted him to such a controversial topic. Musk has often made a name for himself as one who goes against the grain and questions official stories. This trait is evident in his critiques of traditional media, government regulations, and even mainstream scientific institutions. His skepticism of establishment views is in line with his general dream of unlocking secrets and the betterment of people through transparency enshrined in innovation. Musk's foray into the Black Israelite debate seems to be a manifestation of this very spirit, a tendency to question dominant historical paradigms and seek out alternative understandings of human identity. Insiders say Musk's interest in the topic might have been provoked by his fascination with the concept of suppressed knowledge. In his tweets and public appearances, Musk has often hinted at the existence of untold truths concealed by institutional power structures. The Black Israelite narrative, which questions mainstream interpretations of biblical history and ethnic identity, fits neatly into Musk's intellectual framework. In so doing, Musk puts himself in a position to be both the seeker of secret knowledge and the agent of dislocation of received historical orthodoxy. Musk's engagement could also be a reflection of the broad cultural and social implications of the Black Israelite movement. The story not only reimagines biblical history, but also connects with today's conversations on race, identity, and power. As someone invested in the future of humanity, Musk may see this as an opportunity to influence how history is understood and shapes present-day society. His interest is not purely academic but also cultural and philosophical, reflecting his broader ambitions to impact global discourse. What sets Musk apart from traditional historians and theologians is his unparalleled access to resources. Indeed, with his net worth of billions, Musk has the unique ability to pursue research programs on a scale that few can rival. This advantage allows him to spearhead groundbreaking projects, collaborate with top-tier experts, and access rare materials that are often incredibly difficult to obtain. Reports suggest that Musk has already begun leveraging these resources to delve into the Black Israelite narrative, assembling a multidisciplinary team of historians, linguists, and theologians to explore the subject in depth. One of Musk's greatest strengths lies in his unparalleled access to archival materials and his capacity to analyze them with cutting-edge tools. Rumors suggest that Musk has been pursuing collaborations with institutions like the Vatican Library, renowned for its vast repository of ancient texts and manuscripts. Moreover, his influence could grant him access to restricted archives in prestigious universities and private collections across the globe. Such resources may hold key insights into the historical and theological questions at the heart of the Black Israelite debate, potentially offering evidence to support or challenge its claims. Beyond traditional methods, Musk's technological expertise creates opportunities for groundbreaking advancements in historical research. Through the companies he has pioneered, like Neuralink and Tesla, advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning are being developed that could revolutionize the study of ancient texts. AI could be employed to decipher damaged manuscripts, translate obscure languages, or uncover patterns in historical data that human researchers might have missed. By applying these tools to the Black Israelite narrative, Musk could help to reshape our understanding of this fascinating topic. Musk has the potential to uncover insights that could reshape our understanding of history. His influence extends far beyond academic circles. As one of the most prominent public figures of the 21st century, his involvement brings unparalleled visibility to the Black Israelite debate. Through his social media platform, X, formerly Twitter, Musk has a direct line to millions of followers, ensuring that any revelations he shares will resonate across the globe. Unlike traditional academics, whose work often remains confined to scholarly journals, Musk's public platform allows him to ignite widespread discussions and shape popular opinion. Furthermore, Musk's reputation as a disruptor adds weight to his involvement. He is seen not as an institutional insider, but as an independent thinker unafraid to challenge the status quo. This perception bolsters his credibility, especially among audiences skeptical of mainstream narratives. If Musk were to present evidence supporting the claims of the Black Israelites, his endorsement could dramatically alter how the narrative is viewed, both in academic circles and in broader cultural contexts. His involvement in this debate holds the potential to revolutionize how the topic is discussed and understood. His involvement brings legitimacy and visibility to a narrative often dismissed or ignored by mainstream institutions. By placing the movement at a historical and cultural crossroads, Musk may have opened the door to greater interest and cross-disciplinary dialogues. One of the most direct consequences of Musk's involvement is amplifying voices from the margins. The Black Israelite narrative has often evolved outside serious scholarship or public discourse, receiving little recognition from mainstream historians or theologians. Musk's endorsement has the potential to change this dynamic, lending legitimacy to the movement and inviting perspectives from diverse quarters. A broader acceptance could lead to a richer understanding of biblical history, embracing its full complexity and variation. However, Musk's involvement raises important questions about power, influence, and interpretation. As a billionaire entrepreneur, Musk wields significant influence over public opinion. His entry into the Black Israelite debate may set a precedent for how influential figures engage with historical and cultural matters. While his influence could foster greater understanding, there's a risk of oversimplification or the promotion of a single dominant narrative. The integration of advanced technologies in historical research adds another layer of complexity. Musk's application of AI and other tools to study ancient texts has the potential to revolutionize the humanities. It also raises ethical and methodological concerns. How should these technologies be used to balance rigorous interpretation with respect for cultural and religious sensitivities? What safeguards are needed to ensure innovation doesn't overshadow the nuanced human aspects of historical inquiry? Musk's foray into the Black Israelite narrative speaks to a broader cultural moment. In an era marked by rapid technological change and growing skepticism toward traditional institutions, questions of identity, history, and power have taken on renewed urgency. The Black Israelite debate embodies these themes, challenging dominant narratives and rethinking how history is written and understood. For Musk, this engagement is part of a larger mission to build a better future for humanity. By questioning established narratives and exploring alternative perspectives, Musk seeks to empower people to think critically and challenge authority. His involvement in the Black Israelite debate reflects this mission, offering a model for how influential figures can use their resources and platforms to promote intellectual inquiry and cultural transformation. At the same time, Musk's role highlights the complexities of influence in today's world. His unique position at the intersection of technology, business, and culture makes him a powerful figure in shaping public discourse. Musk's forays into historical and theological debates illustrate how these domains can intersect, creating transformative visions that reshape our understanding of both the past and the future. Elon Musk's investigations into the historical and theological connections between African communities and ancient Israel have reportedly led to startling discoveries. If authenticated, these findings could challenge established narratives and shed new light on the identities and migrations of biblical peoples. Sources close to Musk reveal that his research focuses on three key areas: ancient manuscripts, genetic studies, and colonial archives. Among the most compelling evidence allegedly uncovered by Musk's team is a collection of ancient scrolls, reportedly unearthed in the Sahel region of Africa. These scrolls are said to contain texts written in Hebrew and various ancient Afroasiatic dialects. Early reports suggest that they include genealogical records, linking certain West African tribes to the ancient Israelites. The Sahel, transitional zone between the Sahara Desert and the Savannah, has historically been a crossroads of civilizations. As such, it stands as a plausible repository for diverse historical artifacts. If these scrolls are authenticated, they could revolutionize traditional historical narratives by providing direct evidence connecting African populations to the so-called lost tribes of Israel, a connection long dismissed as speculative or mythical. Such discoveries, if proven genuine, would not only affirm historical claims but also invite a broader re-examination of African history and its connections to biblical antiquity. Preliminary analyses reportedly indicate that the scrolls document migratory patterns, religious practices, and tribal affiliations that align with those described in the Hebrew Bible. These records could serve as a critical bridge between the oral histories preserved within African diasporic communities and the written traditions of ancient Israel. To validate these claims, Musk's team is said to be collaborating with linguists, historians, and archaeologists. Authentication will involve carbon dating to establish the scroll's age, along with comparative analyses, to match the texts with other ancient manuscripts. The potential implications of these findings are vast. If authenticated, they could reshape how historians interpret the spread of Semitic cultures and languages, potentially challenging Eurocentric views of biblical history. Beyond manuscripts, Musk has reportedly turned to genetic research to further explore ancestral links between African populations and the ancient Israelites. While contentious, genetic studies offer fresh ways to examine historical migrations and population dynamics. With new DNA sequencing and analysis techniques, researchers can track genetic markers across time and geography, enabling the reconstruction of long-forgotten connections. Several genetic studies have already suggested that some African populations, particularly in West Africa and the Horn of Africa, carry markers potentially linked to Semitic groups. For example, the Limba, an ethnic group from Sierra Leone, have long claimed Israeli ancestry, and genetic studies have identified markers in their Y chromosome, consistent with Jewish priestly lineages. Though Musk's research does not focus solely on the Limba, it extends this methodology to explore genetic links across broader African and diasporic populations. Critics of genetic studies caution against oversimplifying results, noting that human genetic variation is complex and that drawing clear correlations between genetic markers and cultural or ethnic identities is challenging. Nevertheless, Musk's approach combines genetics with historical and archaeological data, creating a more nuanced account of ancestral relationships. If verified, his discoveries could provide scientific evidence supporting the view that African people indeed have a rightful claim to Israelite ancestry. Perhaps the most explosive element of Musk's investigation is the alleged discovery of colonial-era documents that detail deliberate efforts to suppress knowledge of African Israelite connections. These letters, journals, and administrative records, some dating back to the 18th and 19th centuries, reportedly reveal a concerted campaign to erase or distort African histories that conflicted with colonial narratives. Missionaries and colonial administrators largely undermined native cultures and imposed European ideologies and religious systems upon the people. Enslaved Africans who carried oral traditions linking them to Israelite descent had their cultural and spiritual identities stripped away. These efforts were aimed at justifying the transatlantic slave trade and reinforcing the racist subjugation of black people. The documents Musk's team allegedly uncovered are letters between European officials outlining strategies to silence claims of African Israelite heritage. These actions ranged from erasing oral traditions to destroying artifacts and texts that represented alternative historical narratives. They were part of a larger effort to discredit African civilization and reinforce racial hierarchies. If authenticated, these records could have far-reaching implications for understanding the historical erasure of African contributions to global history. They challenge the foundations of many Eurocentric narratives, raising critical questions about the role of power and ideology in shaping collective memory. The history of Black biblical Israelites is filled with examples of suppression and marginalization. For centuries, claims of African Israelite connections were dismissed by mainstream historians as pseudo-history or religious myth. New evidence suggests these claims may be rooted in authentic historical and cultural links. Some enslaved Africans held on to oral traditions connecting their ancestry to ancient Israel through aspects of daily life, referencing biblical figures, following rituals similar to Mosaic laws, and experiencing a sense of divine chosenness. Colonial authorities systematically suppressed these narratives, replacing African spiritual practices with a Eurocentric interpretation of Christianity. Oral traditions, which have always been essential in African cultures, carried history, spiritual knowledge, and cultural practices. In the Americas, these traditions survived through songs, stories, and religious practices, despite relentless efforts to erase African identities. Musk's investigation reportedly includes efforts to document and analyze these oral histories, treating them as valuable sources of evidence, rather than dismissing them as folklore. In addition to oral traditions, Musk's team is reportedly uncovering ignored manuscripts and artifacts, including religious texts, carvings, and relics that bear striking similarities to Israelite iconography and practices. For example, certain West African communities have long observed customs such as circumcision, dietary restrictions, and festivals that closely resemble those described in the Hebrew Bible. While these practices have traditionally been attributed to Islamic and indigenous influences, Musk's team is exploring the possibility that they may be remnants of Israelite heritage. This suppression of African Israelite connections remains a critical focus of Musk's research into the colonial era. Through the discovery of documents revealing these efforts, Musk's team is shedding light on the power dynamics involved in the writing of history. The erasure of African contributions to global history wasn't an act of ignorance. It was a deliberate strategy designed to justify exploitation and subjugation. This suppression not only marginalized alternative interpretations of biblical history, but also helped consolidate Eurocentric views of the Bible and legitimize racial hierarchies that continue to shape contemporary society. By amplifying these suppressed voices and histories, Musk's findings could disrupt these long-standing structures and foster a more inclusive understanding of the past. His investigations into the hidden history of Black biblical Israelites have the potential to reshape our understanding of history, theology, and identity. If authenticated, these discoveries could validate claims of African Israelite heritage and challenge entrenched narratives about race and religion. In doing so, Musk would contribute to historical scholarship while also challenging the racialized assumptions that have underpinned global power structures. His work underscores the importance of questioning dominant narratives and embracing a more inclusive approach to history. Musk's involvement invites us to interrogate what we think we know about the past, and to rediscover the latent stories that still influence our collective identity. Furthermore, the implications of Musk speaking out on this historical narrative are profound. Revisiting the question of Black biblical Israelites forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about history, identity, and the lingering legacies of colonialism. It challenges inherited narratives and compels us to reconsider the voices that have been systematically silenced throughout generations. If African Americans can indeed be linked to the ancient Israelites, it would carry deep meaning, providing not only a stronger sense of identity, but also an opportunity to reclaim a history that has been distorted or dismissed. For society at large, Musk's investigations raise fundamental questions about who controls history, and how it has been used to shape cultural, political, and social realities. For Musk himself, this solidifies his position as more than just an industry disruptor. He positions himself as a truth seeker. By focusing on these historically and culturally significant questions, Musk bridges innovation with scholarship and social consciousness. No matter where this story leads, one thing is clear: Musk is ensuring the world is watching. Whether his findings are embraced or contested, they will ignite debates that transcend academia, permeate public discourse, and reshape collective perceptions. The hidden history of the Black biblical Israelites is no longer confined to obscurity. It is emerging into the light. Under Musk's leadership and with the vast resources at his disposal, this exploration could forever change how we understand the past, engage with the present, and envision the future.